Imam Abdulganiyy Raji is National Dawah Officer of the Nasrullahi Fatih Society, or NASFAT for short. He joins me now to discuss the essence of this very important Islamic observance, especially at this critical period in Nigeria's existence. Good to have you here with me on this day live.
Thank you very much.
Imam Raji,
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Okay. First, let me say congratulations on this special occasion.
Thank you very much for congratulating.
Eid al-Adha, as it is also called.
Thank you very much.
Now,
thank you.
Quickly, could you take us through the significance, the symbolism of this festival of sacrifice, as it is known?
Okay. Eid al-Adha is actually celebrated on the 10th day of the 12th month of the Islamic calendar called Zulhijjah. And this celebration is a reminder to us that we need to keep faith with God, because we cannot talk about this celebration without talking about the father of all faithfuls. That is Prophet Ibrahim, known in Christendom as Abraham. He was willing to sacrifice his son to God because he was commanded to do so before God Almighty ransomed the son with a ram. So Abraham kept faith with God. He believed in God. God tested him, and then because he exercised patience, at the end of the day, he was supported. He came out victorious from his trials. Now, as citizens too, beyond the slaughtering rams, beyond the festivities, we must also remember that this celebration is about making sacrifice. There is no doubt we're going through a lot of turbulence moments in our nation. There is inflation. People are complaining. I am an Afa. I know that a lot of people come to us to complain that things are tough in the country. There's no doubt about that. But what we've been telling people is that they need to exercise patience. The president that we have now just came to power. Rome was not built in a day. We have gone through a lot of suffering, there's no doubt about that, before he came to power. Well, now that he's in office, what we need to do is to support him. However, as much as we need to keep telling our fellow citizens to sacrifice, to make sacrifice, to endure, to exercise patience, we must also remember that our leaders who are telling us that we must imbibe the spirit of sacrifice are also not leading by example. And that's so unfortunate. They're not leading by example, and it's painful. You know, the Quran tells us, if you check Quran 2, verse 44, the Quran says, "Oh, you who believe, why do you command people? You command people to do something, but you forget yourself. You command people to do what is good." Just as we have our leaders today who are telling us to sacrifice, be patient with us, do this, be moderate, be this and all that. They are telling us to be moderate. They are telling us to be modest. They are telling us to exercise patience. They are telling us to bear with them. They are telling us to cut down on our expenses. But we do not see many of our leaders actually replicating what they are telling us to do. And this is so bad. And it's against the teachings of the Quran. So the end is actually about making sacrifice. Making sacrifice, you make sacrifice, you keep faith with God, you endure. Whatever you experience in terms of hardship in the way of serving God, you bear with it because you are serving. But at the same time, we also have to come down to our own nation, telling people to sacrifice. Well, it's fine. We'll keep telling our people to sacrifice, but our leaders also need to sacrifice. Our leaders need to show us how to sacrifice.
Ma'am, I like your point about our leaders showing a good example.
Absolutely.
If they ask the people to make sacrifices, they too should start by cutting down on their apparently conspicuous consumption.
Absolutely.
But this, still on that point, this year's Salah is taking place in a season of hunger.
Absolutely.
Many families that used to buy 3 rams, 4 rams before now could not even buy one.
Absolutely.
Some cut down on their expenses. And some people have even been saying, well, if this is the reality in Nigeria, with inflation at 33.95, with energy costs so high, with fuel price so high, that maybe if they cannot afford the ram, maybe during Salah period, given the reality of the country, they can try other options like turkey, like chicken, like, and that, God will understand that they are in Nigeria. The people cannot even help themselves say, well, they won't even bother until Nigeria improves. So failure to observe Salah, is it a major religious
let me put it this way. It's so unfortunate that we are going through austerity in our country at this moment. It's so painful. But the beauty of Islam is that God Almighty will not place upon any soul a burden that he cannot carry. If you have money to buy a ram or to buy 2 or more, you can do so. But if you don't have money, God will not ever punish you for not doing something that you lack the ability to do. So if you don't have money to buy a ram this year, maybe you bought last year, this year, but we can all see what is happening in our country. You cannot buy one. Whatever you can afford, if it is a chicken that you can buy, go for it. If it is fish that you can buy for your family, members of your family should understand that there is austerity in the country and things are tough. So it's a major, slaughtering a ram on Salah Day is a major practice, a major aspect of the festivities. However, if you lack the means, the ability to do so, you are not under any obligation to do so. I mean, to go and borrow or to go and steal or to even put yourself through unnecessary hardship just because you want to please anybody. What a lot of people do is, I killed a ram last year. This year, if I don't kill one, my neighbors will feel like, what is wrong with this man and all that. Are we placing our neighbors or we are placing God? So if you don't have money to kill a ram this year, it is God that you are relating with. Members of your family also understand that you are going through a tough time. You explain it to them, they will understand, and then do whatever you can do for you. Just make them happy. It's not about killing. It's not enough to kill a ram. We have people who kill a ram that day, and then if they fail, for instance, let's say that they obtain the money with which they bought their ram through an illegal way, through a way that is not approved by God, they will not get any reward for doing so. It's not about, even if you kill 100 rams and there are people suffering around you, you have people within your family, they are suffering, you don't care about them. Your parents, you don't care about them. You have brothers, you don't care about them. There are people within your community that you don't care about them. God may not accept your 100 rams. So it is beyond the rams. It's about making members of your family happy, making the people around you happy, coming together, demonstrating that spirit of sacrifice, demonstrating that spirit of, I love God, I want to serve God, I appreciate God has done for me. So it is not enough to say I'm slaughtering a ram. So it is much more than that.
Okay, see, some of the values that we're celebrating today include love, a sense of community,
absolutely,
faith, sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And yet in this country, one of the problems we have with religion is this lack of a sense of community. There's so much religious intolerance. Even within the Islamic sect, Islamic Ummah,
religion,
you'll find a lot of sects that antagonize each other, not to even talk of Muslim versus Christians. And yet, imams like you preach tolerance, you preach harmony. Why is it that those values are elusive in this country, in your view?
Thank you very much. I think the problem is that a lot of people misunderstand what religion stands for. People confine religion to the 4 walls of the mosque or their church. That when I'm in my mosque, I'm like an angel. But when I'm outside the 4 walls of my mosque, I'm a devil. That's what a lot of people do. When they are inside the mosque, they sit down, they are quiet, they show respect and obeisance to God. But when they are outside the 4 walls of the mosque or their place of worship, whether you are a Muslim or a Christian, they become something else. Religion is about having a relationship with God, a good one, trusting Him, and then fearing Him, and then also having a good relationship with His creatures. If you worship God even more than our Prophet Muhammad, but you don't have a good relationship with your neighbors, it does not matter whether they are Muslims or Christians. Are you with me now? God will not accept your act of worship. He will not accept your worship. Worship is not confined to the mosque. The problem we have in this country, we have a lot of mosques and we have a lot of churches today. And that's why we need to tell people they should stop deceiving themselves by thinking that they are deceiving God. Because you can't deceive God. If you are angelic in your church, angelic in your mosque, but within your neighborhood, you don't care about the development of your community, you are not tolerant to other people, then there is a problem. So we need to draw that line of demarcation between somebody who comes out to tell people, I'm a religious person, and somebody who truly practices religion. Somebody who practices religion will not hate a person created by God, no matter who that person, even if that person is a criminal, he will continue to encourage him because he still has hope that God can turn things around for this person. This bad person can come back to become a good person tomorrow. So if you see a Muslim, whether he says he does not tolerate his fellow Muslims or he does not tolerate people who do not belong to his religion, you should know that there is a problem. There is a problem. So more often than not, you see people coming out to say that religious people are bad people and all that religious people are part of the problem. I listened to one of our leaders, political leaders in the country, talking about religious leaders or religion being part of the problems of this nation. Religion is not part of the problems of this nation. It is people who misunderstand religion. If you study the Quran or you study the Bible, you will never see a verse of the Quran that says, hate this person, kill this person, don't tolerate this person, beat this person. You know, there is nothing like that in the Quran. And I'm sure if you go back to the Bible too, you can see a verse of the Bible that will say, go and kill. So it is people who misunderstand religion. You know, and I'm glad you are a learned person. So when you see somebody practicing, for instance, Islam in a particular way, you should not use that person as a metric or a yardstick to determine what Islam stands for. You can say that we have people in Europe, in America today, who are accepting Islam in their numbers. It's not because somebody is practicing, somebody is preaching Islam to them. They are taking their time to actually study the Quran. I'm telling you the truth. They are studying the Quran and they are actually learning the truth and the fact about Islam. And they are accepting the religion without anybody forcing them to accept it. So we need to draw that line of demarcation between being a religious person and being a righteous person. So a religious person must be a righteous person. And then to crown it all, God tells us through his prophet that what we call righteousness is for you to worship God as if you can see him. If you cannot see him, he sees you. What does that mean? You relate with his creatures, people created by God, with love, with empathy, with care. You don't hate anybody, whether the person belongs to your religion or not. And our beloved Prophet Muhammad specifically told us, you are not a believer. Listen, if you want to define religion, then you must go this or this. You are not a religious person until you love for your brother what you love for yourself.
Okay, let's talk about politics and religion, which is another touchy subject in Nigeria.
Okay.
Most recently, the federal government earmarked 98 billion naira to sponsor pilgrimage, people going to Mecca and Medina. Now, some of the state governments also had very huge allocations to send people on pilgrimage, which is supposed to be a private activity. And Section 10 of the Nigerian Constitution, 1999, says that the federal government or any part thereof of the federation shall not adopt any religion as state religion.
Absolutely.
So what do you think of this sponsorship of pilgrimages? Will you say, by the same token, that if you can't afford to slaughter a ram, don't bother. If you can't afford to sponsor yourself to, on pilgrimage, whether you're a Muslim or a Christian, don't ask the government to come and sponsor you.
Absolutely. Now to respond to that, honestly, the news also came to us, the Muslim Ummah, as a shock, honestly. We didn't see that coming. Ordinarily, I would have described the step taken by the federal government as a misplaced priority. But I'm yet to actually understand the rationale behind the decision taken by the government to subsidize Hajj. Because in Islam, Hajj is only for those who have the means to perform it. Are you with me now? Islam has 5 pillars. Hajj is the last one. And it is only Hajj that the Prophet specifically told us that it is only those who have the means who should perform it. If I lack the means to perform Hajj and I do not perform it, I will not be punished for not performing it. Unlike our daily prayers, that one does not require money, does not require anything from you. Just do your ablution, go and pray. But Hajj, you must have money before you go for it. This is what our religion says. Now, the government is now telling us that they have subsidized Hajj with 90 billion naira. Honestly, when most of us read about it, because we were not consulted. In fact, some of us are still asking the question, where is the money? Because we know how much people have paid for Hajj this year. People have paid over 8 million naira for Hajj this year. And then we still have our government telling us that they have subsidized Hajj. So for me, I would have said it's a misplaced priority. But just as I mentioned earlier, I do not want to prejudge the government. I want to know the rationale behind it. And I want to see who and who they have actually subsidized. Because I don't understand. People are paying almost 9 million naira for Hajj, and the government is coming to tell us that. So I want you to understand that, because people may think that because the president is a Muslim, that's why he's subsidizing. We, the Muslim Ummah, were not consulted before the government took the decision. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and criticize the government until I know the reason why the government has taken the decision that it took, even though many of us don't feel okay, because we feel that not all Muslims are actually going for Hajj this year. So people are hungry. We know the current state of our education now. Many people don't want to take their children to our public institutions anymore. Everybody wants to take their children abroad for education. We know ASU went on strike NLC rather, went on strike for days before the government actually called them for a meeting. People are complaining. Things are expensive. And now we are saying that. So we should not think that Muslims are happy. After all, it is their religion that the government has subsidized. It is a key pillar of their religion that the government has subsidized. We are not in support of any policy introduced by the government that will add to the current hardship that people are facing in the country. So we were not consulted. It was a decision taken by the government and probably some people working with the government. And I also understand the decision that the government should not adopt a state religion. Nigeria is a pluralistic nation, a multicultural and multi-religious nation, and we believe that this government should promote that interfaith tolerance. So we Muslim Ummah, we are in support of religious tolerance. We are in support of fairness to all faith. That is our position. Okay,
finally, let's talk about NASFAT. When people talk about NASFAT, they say NASFAT is the Pentecostal arm of the Muslim community in Nigeria. You know, when you hear Pentecostalism, it has its own connotation.
Absolutely.
Because of the way, some people have interpreted it.
Absolutely.
So in NASFAT, do you also insist on tithes? Do you also preach the gospel of prosperity? Do you also, just like the Pentecostal opposite in the Christian religion?
Okay. I think I need to clarify something. There is nothing like Pentecostalism in NASFAT. We are a Muslim organization. We preach about the oneness of God. We teach our members Islam in a simple way. We know that people's levels of religiosity differ. Some people have a very high level of religiosity. They are willing to go beyond what God has made compulsory for us. They want to do some supererogatory or voluntary act of ibadah. While there are some who are struggling even with the act of worship that God has made compulsory for us. We bring all of them together and we allow them to practice Islam in a simple way. So I know that there are people out there who misunderstand what NASFAT stands for. They think that NASFAT actually worship God in the same way Christians worship God, because we meet every Sunday. But that's not it. We meet every Sunday because we realize that that is when
night vigils.
Thank you very much. Yes. I'm coming to that too. We meet every Sunday because we know that that is when people have time. People go to work from Monday to Friday. Even some go to work on Saturdays. And those who do not go to work on Saturdays, they have one party or the other. So between 8:30 and 1, we ask them to come to our locations. We have more than 300 locations in different parts of the world. We are in the UK, we're in the US, we're in Canada. We are in Togo and many other countries of the world. Okay, come around, let's worship together, God together. We study the Quran. We teach ourselves the Quran. We teach ourselves about Islam. That is what we do. So, and now, talking about the vigil. Vigil is recommended in our religion. Are you with me now? It doesn't matter whether you do it congregationally or you do it alone. But why we encourage people to come together for it is that we know that if you ask people to sit down and do it at home, a lot of people will sit from 8 till 6. They will not wake up. But we want to encourage them to come together so that we do our vigil together. Now, you also mentioned tithe. We don't do that. We recognize what we call zakat, which is a common term, a common pillar of Islam. It's part of the 5 pillars of Islam. As a wealthy person, once in an Islamic year, you take 2.5% of your wealth and you give it to a needy person. So what you are doing is you are not feeding that person, you are also teaching that person how to fish. So that's it. You want to empower the person. So we don't talk about tithes in Nasfat, so I need to clarify that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the education, the enlightenment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
My
indeed.
pleasure.
And
My
to
pleasure.
all our Muslim viewers at home, Eid Mubarak, happy Eid al-Fitr.
Thank you very
Barakah
much.
Salah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
My pleasure.
Imam Raji.
Thank you very much.